Xanathar Zushax, leader of Waterdeep's Thieves Guild, secretly a beholder, has a pet goldfish. Count Strahd von Zarovich, legendary vampire and ruler of Barovia. Tragic backstory of love and brotherly betrayal. Total simp. Boblin the Goblin. I just made him up on the spot. Has a funny voice. Is the backbone holding up my entire party. The non-player character has to fill many roles, such as background characters, quest givers, lore dumpers, and antagonists for D&D and tabletop RPGs. Unfortunately, you have to play as all of them. But while creating memorable and believable NPCs can seem daunting no matter how long you've been DMing, there's a process we can use to simplify NPC creation, regardless if they're a follower, a big bad evil guy, or some dude the players grabbed off the street whose name is,
Then Sarzi.
There are many paths to creating interesting, memorable, and useful NPCs, but this one is mine. So perhaps what I use will be just as helpful for you as it's been for me. We'll go over 3 categories of NPCs today: guard number 3s, buddies, and baddies. But let me give you the most important advice first. No matter how much or little effort you put into creating the perfect NPC, their usefulness is only measured by how much attention the players give them. So I'm not gonna give you advice like write a 3-page paper from their point of view, jot down their favorite color and what they like to do on the weekends, draw up their family tree and how their socioeconomic upbringing has caused them to lean towards a chaotic good outlook towards... You forgot to take your meds for your world builder's disease. All you need to know as a DM is what is their quirk, what do they want, and what do they not want, regardless if they are friend, foe, if they show up for 5 minutes or for 5 campaigns. Answering these 3 things will carry you most of the way, because the NPC needs to do their job for the game and then get out of the way for the players. There's a few other questions we can add into the mix, but for our first category of NPCs, we're going to focus on these 3. Guard number 3 is any NPC that suddenly needs to be an NPC. The Night Watchman, the players have to convince to let them into town. The Barkeeper, the players ask for the latest gossip. The Wounded Orc, your players are about to commit war crimes on to reveal the secrets about the dungeon. I don't have a big list of NPCs waiting in the wings for when X or Y thing happens. What I do is default to these 3 questions the moment the new character is needed. First, what's their quirk? This can be their visual appearance or their physical mannerisms. If you have a hard time coming up with something on the fly, use roll tables. The 5e Dungeon Master's Guide has 20 different NPC appearances and 20 different NPC mannerisms. Shadowdark has a similar list of NPC qualities. Just like a list of names to grab when you need them, have a collection of physical traits to roll or choose from when you're trying to describe how does guard number 3 stand out from guard number 1 and 2. And if you want further resources to create stronger descriptions and immersion in your game, take a look at what Describe can offer, the sponsor for today's video. With Describe, I can search for specific situations like guard and get a description for guard number 3, either to use straight up or as a springboard to write my own descriptions. But my favorite tool in Describe is Opus, a web app that allows me to create ambient scenes and sound effects for my games. You can give a recurring NPC a specific soundtrack crafted by Michael Gelfi. I am a happily married man. But you can try all of Describe for yourself for free for an entire month by putting in the code DeficientMaster at checkout, link below. But regardless of what you use to help your initial description, remind players of that physical trait every time that NPC is in the spotlight. We need to see information around 5 to 7 times before it starts sticking in our heads. That ain't D&D advice. That's just human nature. So subscribe! It might feel silly mentioning the NPC's shiny white scar every time the players interact with them, but it works as a descriptive anchor for the players to visualize this character. They might forget the name is, Marboreal, but they will remember Shiny Scar Guy. While a notable scar or a physical tick might help immerse your players to this NPC, it's the NPC's wants and don't wants that'll create believable characters. For NPCs like guard number 3, I look at their immediate wants and don't wants. Where guard number 3 sees himself 5 years from now doesn't help me in the moment, as my players are trying to slip through the front gate past curfew. What this guard wants right now is a quiet night, and what he doesn't want is to lose his job by letting in a couple of foreign hobos with no paperwork who are carrying more net worth in their scabbards than he'll ever see in his career. Once you decide the immediate want and don't want, that is your guiding star when the players say or do something bonkers to this NPC. Are the players doing something that relates to the want? The NPC helps. Are the players doing something that affects their don't want? The NPC hinders. Are we unsure? Reaction table. Use the dice in your dice game. While answering these 3 questions will carry you for the majority of your NPC prep work, there are 2 additional questions we can add to those NPCs that keep recurring to make them way more believable and interesting. Buddies are the NPCs that stick around over the sessions, either by repeat appearances or constant followers of the party. You know, Boblin the Goblin. Sometimes guard number 3 becomes a buddy. Sometimes you carefully craft the perfect buddy only for your players to abandon or straight up relieve them from this mortal coil, because the players are leery. But regardless of how an NPC becomes a buddy, buddies can be made way more interesting in the long term by asking these additional questions. What is their secret, and what is their incongruency? The most necessary of these is secrets, because when you meet somebody, you don't learn everything about them in the first interaction. I don't care how good your persuasion or investigation check was. The secret is revealed as the players interact with the NPC over a prolonged period of time. And what's great for you, DM, is that you don't have to have all these answers to why they have this secret. The details can be expanded on the more the players focus on this NPC. Most of my NPC's secrets are as simple as, is actually a vampire, or is in love with the wizard. And I'll expand on the whys so long as the wizard doesn't leave that NPC on red. Their secrets should also affect their wants and don't wants. The more attention the players give an NPC, the more we need to zoom out on the wants and don't wants. We'll expand on this when we get to the baddies, but for now, let's talk incongruencies. I like playing out the tropes as much as the next guy, but I'm trying to make my game world and the characters in it feel complex at the table, but not complex while I'm making it up. A lazy answer is to just be original, bro. But what I've learned is that you can make your NPCs and factions more complex by simply adding in 1 or 2 incongruencies. Details that don't fit in with the preconceived stereotypical trope. This concept clicked for me when reading through Joseph Manola's article in Knock Issue 4. In his example, he takes the cliché of a bandit gang and gives them a whole bunch of incongruencies to the bandits as a whole, and even a couple to a few individual named bandit NPCs. Instead of the trope of bandits in the woods with the leader who's the meanest of the bunch, we have bandits who are deeply religious, not robbing on holy days and purposely not harming clergy. By adding in that little detail, we now open up several possibilities of how our players can interact with this bandit group, especially if they have a cleric or a paladin in the party. So next time, when you're creating a recurring NPC follower, dive into the trope, but take something out of left field to make them stand out from being just another cliché. We can use the same 5 questions for our baddies as well, but we're gonna prioritize certain questions over others for them. For recurring villains and long-term antagonists, these are often the ones doing something our players have to stop, so it's important to spend most of our time on the what do they want question. This is how we create iconic villains like Strahd, who has multiple wants beyond just being a big bad vampire in a big bad castle. Secrets can be used as potential rewards the players can learn to use against the villain, and an incongruency or 2 can make the baddies a little less evil with a capital E. There's nothing wrong with asking other questions beyond the 5 main questions, but I find that I get diminishing returns when I stray from my NPC prep beyond answering what is their quirk, what do they want, what do they not want, what is their secret, and what is their incongruency. But no matter how interesting an NPC is, they should never, ever upstand the player. Use them for the job you've created them for, and then let the player decide on how much attention they want to give this NPC, which will guide you into how much detailed prep you need to be spending. What were some of the best NPCs you've created or encountered in your games? Let me know below. And if you want to know the most important lessons I learned from dealing with real players, find out why I hate
Larry
in this video.